I am working as a cashier and naturally you get to meet all kinds of people on the job. It was near the end of my shift and I've had some especially nice customers, so I was in a pretty good mood when dude bro arrived. Anyone could immediately see that he was pissed. He comes up to me and just slams his items down. I ring up his items while he mumbles under his breath. His total comes up to approximately €9. He hands me a €50 bill and says give me 2 tenors. Being the helpful fool that I am, I ask him if he would prefer 4x €10 or 2x10 and 1x20? His response, yo, I said give me 2 tenors. Me, feeling a bit sassy. Communication can be difficult at times. Him, what did you just say? I decided to leave it at that, because I didn't want to risk an escalation, or my good mood for that matter. Dude bro picks up his things and while doing so drops the 2 €10 bills without noticing. At this point I am just staring at him, while my shoulder devil and angel started a violent cage match and he is ranting about some machine and purse store not working properly. Sadly there are no children in line, which might just pocket the money and be happy about it, but instead only 2 nice old ladies who I know will give the money to me, where it will just end up in the registry. So with the guy already going, why are you looking at me like that, what's your problem? I point out that he dropped his money. He goes silent, picks it up and leaves. For the rest of my shift I debate whether he deserved to lose the money, but done is done. Until the next day, where he shows up again. He was paying at another registry and seemed to be less angry, so I just ignored him until he showed up next to me after paying. He actually came back to apologize for his behavior the previous day, because and I quote, I was so angry and mean, but you still told me when I dropped my money. I thanked him for apologizing and he went on his way. I felt fucking amazing for the rest of the day, and to this day it is one of my favorite customer interactions I've had on the job. If I'd been in a worse mood that day I probably would have kept silent to punish him for being so rude, but I am very glad that I didn't. So this is not really my story, our evening manager told me about this and I felt the need to share. At 9:15 p.m. a customer calls wishing to speak with the meat department. The department closes 9 p.m., so the evening manager, Steve, takes the call. A man wants to know how many of the strip steaks we have on sale are left. Steve checks and tells him there are 7 left. Man thanks him and hangs up. 15 minutes later the man calls back. He doesn't believe Steve and wants him to check again. Although annoyed, Steve agrees to check and tells the man there are now 6 strip steaks. The man shouts angrily, I knew it. You lied to me, to which Steve calmly responds, no sir, another customer bought one since your last call. The man retorts, we'll see about that. I'm coming down there right now, and you'd better have those steaks. So a little before 10 p.m. this middle-aged man comes to the registers with a few strip steaks asking for the manager. Steve comes down and the customer rips into him. You lied to me, the man accused, you said there were 6 steaks left and there are only 4. Just barely keeping his cool, Steve replies, there were when you called, but like last time another customer bought some. Now fuming the man demands that Steve go back and cut him some more strip steaks. Steve refuses since he's not a trained cutter, and even if he was the department has been cleaned for the night. The man then demands a rain check for 30 strip steaks, since this is the last day of the sale. Steve says no, he can give him a rain check for up to 4 steaks, and to make up for his troubles he'll let him have one of the 4 steaks he's buying now for free. Not good enough for this customer, he leaves without any steaks or rain check and promises he'll be calling the store director in the morning for such terrible customer service. As far as we know the complaint has not yet been made. So I used to work at a shop that sold macarons. My town is a huge tourist destination in Florida and we had these chocolate tours. Basically a guide will take you on a tour of the city and you go around and sample sweets from all the different sweet stores. I apologize in advance as I'm bad at paraphrasing so this will probably be long. One day one of the tour guides comes in with an elderly couple. We had just opened and I had yet to see my boss that day. She told me that we had been added to the chocolate tour and my boss said her guests could have 2 macarons and 2 pieces of chocolate on the house. I hadn't been told about this so I was a little confused. I wanna preface the next part by saying, I have worked in customer service jobs since I was a young kid. I don't want to sound cocky, especially as I'm not confident about a lot of things in my life, but I do know for an absolute fact that I'm fantastic with customers and I treat every one of them like we've known each other for years. I have never broken my retail persona and have always maintained a calm, friendly composure. Every boss I've had has loved me for this. So, I tell her I will be happy to do that for you, but I haven't heard anything about this, so would you mind if I called my boss real quick to confirm there wasn't any miscommunication? And she's seemingly totally fine with this. Both her and her guests said they totally understood, it was no problem at all, they didn't want me to get in trouble, etc. So I call and get the go-ahead. I apologize multiple times for the confusion and there doesn't seem to be any problem. Because of the confusion I make an extra effort for them. I pull out the cute silk bags we reserve for events and tied their sweets up real cute with a little bow, just basically made it a little extra special while having a nice chat with the guide and her guests. She's all smiles, they're all smiles, I think we're all good. They go to sit down indeed. I can hear their whole conversation, this is important later, and they're just having a nice chat about the town. The guide is asking if they enjoyed their tour as this was the last stop, nothing about me whatsoever. The guide gets up and says goodbye to them and leaves for her next tour, and the couple likes the chocolates so much that they come up and ordered a few more and throw a few bucks in the tip jar. Nothing seemed off whatsoever and I forget about the whole thing and go about my day. Later I hear my phone go off with a text from my boss, but I don't get to read it because we get hit with a small rush. Towards the tail end of the rush my boss comes in and asks me if I saw her text. I say no and she tells me to go read it, so I do and it's a screenshot of an email from the guide. It basically said something along the lines of, "Your employee was very rude and aggressive. My guests and I spoke as we were sitting to eat and they said he made them very uncomfortable and they felt unwelcome. They said they wanted to order more but didn't want to talk to him again so they didn't. It was very unprofessional that he didn't know about the chocolate tour and he gave us attitude about it." I walk over to my boss after reading the text and just say, "Aggressive? What?" And she pops off. She loved me because I was one of the few working there who actually worked instead of spending my whole shift on my phone. She's going off, like how dare she say that? You're my best employee, I know you would never be aggressive to anyone. This is so ridiculous. I watched the cameras and you were so nice to them. It's not your fault that I forgot to tell you about the tour. The cameras have audio so she could hear every word I said and every word the guide and her guests said. They didn't say a single word about me, they were very happy with their sweets, and like I said earlier they did order more stuff after the guide left and we had a very nice interaction. So basically, at no point did they have the chance to talk about me to where I could hear them as the tour guide and them parted ways while they stayed in the store. She straight up lied about multiple things. The only possible reason I could think of for the bad review she sent my boss, luckily she didn't leave a public review anywhere, is that she was embarrassed because there was the small hiccup in the tour with me being confused when she first walked in and I was the easiest person to take it out on. The doors to the macaron cooler do make a kind of loud sound when you close them, and I tend to be a little heavy-handed anyway, so maybe she interpreted the smack of the doors as me slamming things around in anger? My boss and I were both confused as hell. I'm lucky that I had the cameras to back me up as well as my boss's trust. I know a lot of bosses will stand by the customer no matter how ridiculous the complaint is. She ended up canceling all future tours because she didn't want their business after that. But man, I work so hard and exert so much emotional labor in order to give people the best experience possible, so I feel very indignant about the whole thing. If you got all the way to the end, thanks for reading. TL, Dr. Tour guide got made over a lack of communication between my boss and I and calls me aggressive for making her look bad in front of her tour? I used to work at a well-known grocery store in Florida. The store had a very nice, premium resort community across the street from it. The street was about a mile or two away from the highway, so it was an incredibly busy street. The residents of the resort had a terrible habit of doing their grocery shopping and taking their carts all the way back to their house, rental, and just leaving the cart in the resort's common area. They actually weren't allowed to take the carts out of the parking lot, but the store manager specifically told us we weren't allowed to stop from leaving the lot. Anyway, whenever too many carts ended up in the common area, the manager of the resort would call the store manager and give him an earful. and #X200B. The solution to this was the ASM and CSM, both good guys, would get in the ASM truck and go get the carts, easy peasy. Well, one day, the store manager gets the call from the resort manager. Side note, the resort manager hated the store manager and the store manager hated the resort manager. I hated them both. Too many carts on his property and they needed to be removed immediately. Here's the problem, the CSM was promoted and went to another store, good for him, and the ASM was on vacation, he earned it. And #X200B. So the store manager tells me that I had to go and get the carts from the resort. And the conversation went as followed. And #X200B. Store manager, I need you to go over to resort / and collect our carts. Me, I don't have a car, let alone a truck. Store manager, that's okay, you can walk. Me, oh. No, that is not going to happen. Store manager, excuse me? I need you to get those carts. Me, okay, let me see if I got this right. You want me to cross a busy street that has a median, grab a bunch of carts, cross that same busy street that still has a median, because you wouldn't let us stop customers from leaving the lot with the carts, do I have that right? Store manager, visibly annoyed / just do it. Another thing to add, I am keenly aware of my rights as an employee and will not do anything to jeopardize my or anyone else's safety. The store manager and I had argued about this many times. I also instilled that belief in my co-workers, so he wasn't going to get them to do it either. Me, no. Remember the last time we had a really bad thunderstorm and you tried to get me to go out and get carts and I refused and you threatened to write me up and the CVS across the street got struck by lightning? Yeah, same energy, not putting myself in danger. Store manager, sigh / fine. I'll figure something out. And off I toddle. Sadly the story doesn't end there. About an hour later, I'm outside getting carts from the lot, when resort manager comes stomping up to me. Resort manager, what the F /CK do you think you're doing? Me, excuse you, who do you think you're talking to? Resort manager, your carts are still on my property. It's been hours. Go get them. Me, I don't work for you no. Take it up with the manager. Resort manager, stunned silence because nobody talks to him like that / oh, I will. And then we'll see. Resort manager stands there for a minute, expecting me to comply. Me, if you want to speak to the manager, you're going to have to go inside the store. Shocked that someone had the unmitigated gall to talk to him like that, he sputters something about getting me fired and storms into the store. I grab a few more carts, and head back inside to punch out and leave. As I leave the break room, I see store manager and resort manager are getting into it. Your carts are on my property, customers aren't allowed to take our carts off the lot, my guests make more money than you do, your guests make more money than you do. It was all delightful juvenile. It almost got to the point of violence, but the sheriff's deputy showed up just in time. Curse you, random good Samaritan. Resort manager retreats to his fiefdom, store manager retreats to his lair, and I leave for the night. The fallout was petty to say the least. ASM comes back from vacation, literally the next day, and he and I head to the resort to pick up our carts. We get to the common area and they're nowhere to be found. To make an already long story short, the resort manager had decided that our carts were now property of the resort and decided to sell them for scrap. Scrap yards won't buy the carts because they're stolen property. The authorities get involved and we get our carts back. And I quit a few months later. If you're one of those guys who likes to read other people's Reddit posts on YouTube, you do not have my permission to read this on your channel. Make some real content.